We're joined by Stacia Hall, who's running for mayor of DC as a Republican. And Stacia, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. And first off, actually, I'm gonna give you a moment to introduce yourself. You're someone who's running for mayor in DC, but tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I am a single mom. I live in Ward 3. My daughter is 17. I have a 32-year-old. And I came from a life of struggles. I was on welfare, but it came to a point where I had to make the decision whether to stay on welfare for the rest of my life or work really hard to leave a legacy for my children. And I chose to work and conquer. In living in DC and loving it, and I decided that it's time to step up, get off the sidelines, and start making a difference in our nation. So that's why I'm here today. Also a business owner. Eclectic Minimalist is my business, interior decor and staging, and also involved in the musical arts, theater, as well as politics. So that's just a little bit about me.
All right,
and I'm glad to be here.
Well, thanks for being here. And let's jump right into the topics here. We're going to start with crime. And obviously, in the nation's capital, sadly, we've seen a lot of tragic outcomes when it comes to gun violence, just all different types of crime, carjacking, younger people committing carjackings. A big problem to figure out as a mayor of the nation's capital. How do you plan to reduce crime in DC?
It's real simple. As an African American woman, I was as shocked, but yet unsurprised when we lost George Floyd. Police brutality, and I'm just going to say police brutality is nothing new. It's been around for a while, but we must stand up against police brutality, but it does not mean we let criminals run wild. Police morale is at an all-time low, and the police numbers are down. So where am I going with this? For a better part of the year, from the start of COVID, the police academy was closed. So it's essential to have our police trained, continue to train them, create programs for police to be trained to work in schools and to relate to school-age children, and bring more police back. They're needed. They're essential workers. So we've got to get them motivated again to come back in our communities and serve. We can't prevent crime. We can't deter it without good police. And the community must stand for its police and work together.
And you started talking about that, but my next question was going to be changes to how DC police operates. Any more ideas there for how you would work with the police department and how the police department work?
I remember as a little girl, officer friendly. I remember the years of having a great relationship with the police force in the community. And those years, those days should come back. We've tried so many different tactics, and just making sure that the police and the community and the people are a happy team. They play a team and they work closely together to protect our children, save lives, and save our communities. And police guaranteed, if they come from out of the one of the 8 wards in DC, they come out of those wards, they're going to know the place and they're going to know the people. So police really need support so that we can get rid of this whole locust effect that's starting to take over this beautiful district.
All right, let's turn to the pandemic now. We start to emerge from it. We're still in it, but the hope is we can emerge from this, and it takes a plan of action to help the city recover, especially when it comes to, bouncing back economically, so many different factors here. What is your plan for emerging from the pandemic?
Well, the pandemic, when it hit us, we were faced with a dilemma that in our generation we had never experienced. So I saw a lot of people not being consistent. You had one thing happening in one state and another happening in another state. So now there's a plan, I'm sure, that's been created to handle these things. So we got to keep the businesses open. Our economy depends on our businesses, our small businesses. We've got to keep them motivated and keep the economy in good standing. We cannot close schools. We cannot close schools, and we have got to change our attitude, how we see pandemics, and no more fear mongering. The economy in DC, this is a city of peace to me. I mean, I really see it that way. This city has got to remain open. It's the beacon. It's the shelter of cities of the entire nation. And so this city is doing worse than other cities across our nation. No, will not continue under my watch. Everyone will prosper and flourish.
All right, let's turn to housing now. An affordable housing shortage for many people. Had this discussion going on for years in the nation's capital. What are your plans there when it
Yeah.
comes to housing and making housing more available to people who need it?
Now we've all heard the stories of people growing up here, but after several years, as time goes forward, as time goes on, they're being housed out. They're being, out of they're being cast out of the housing market here in DC. Unacceptable. We have got to keep our teachers, police, firefighters. We've got to really accommodate them. They're essential to us. Our nurses, we've got to create workforce housing for them. An overwhelming number of our residents, government workers, are not living here. They're living in Virginia, Maryland. And so if we can get them here by creating workforce housing that is accessible and that is accommodating, we're gonna keep teachers on board. Teachers are talking about not returning for their contracts, going into Maryland or Virginia and being okay with the pay they receive there and being able to live there. So we can't continue in this regard. We've got to fix the housing situation and the just the separation of families being here 3 and 4 generations and them having to be moved out so that they lose their property and then we upgrade the neighborhoods. We should be able to take care of everyone.
All right, now let's move to working with city council. I'm sure you've seen in the nation's capital, it can be contentious at times between the mayor and the city council. How do you plan to approach that relationship if you become the next mayor?
Well, for me, and this is really no other way to spell it out. I come in as an outsider. I am not a career politician. I have no connections to political or special interests. I understand that 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 council has been sort of an adversary to our mayor. I've heard of the things that have been presented to be implemented and they were shot down. I am a woman of faith and I believe teamwork makes the dream work. I know I'll be a great team player. I know I'll work well with them. So I do not have any concerns there. It's going to work. We're definitely going to work well together. And we're trying to make this a city for all. And I got to be a mayor for all.
Okay, let's turn to infrastructure now. We have the President's Infrastructure Act, which will be bringing in a lot of money into the nation's capital. We've already heard the discussions on how to spend that money, where it should go. What are your ideas and what are your plans for spending that money when it comes to infrastructure?
Well, infrastructure, we're seeing it play out every day. We're going out, getting up, going to work, construction, roads being closed. It would have been great if, again, if there was a plan in place when things were pretty quiet during the pandemic. A lot of that stuff would have been good to be getting it done then. But yeah, let's continue trying to improve the city. That's a part of the improvement process. Um, the budget when it pertains to the infrastructure, it's got to fix these potholes. I mean, because to me, WMATA is in trouble, and also the fare evasion that should be made a crime. People should be paying to ride the metro and the metro bus. You know, the revenue for that makes sense, and we have to take a regional approach to fixing the metro. And as a mayor, I want to work with Virginia, Maryland, to ensure that the metro is made whole again. So that can be so there's got to be a greater sense of urgency to fixing our roads. Period.
And finally, what separates you from the other candidates? You're obviously, you haven't been in the political realm, so your name might not be synonymous with obviously running the city. So how do you plan to overcome those hurdles, and what makes you different from the other candidates?
I've overcome adversity. I've overcome miles and miles of adversity. I have a motto: when life serves you lemon, make lemonade. So there's been so much of that in my life. And then suddenly, one day, it was turned completely around. I do have a great story. And I believe that with the right leadership, children being mentored, also families that have not gotten a fair shot being mentored. Our city needs a mayor or a leader and leaders that don't want to cancel God out of the nation or cancel God out of the district. We want to pray, seek wisdom, and we want to act and do things for all. So for me, my motivation for running, I don't want to sit on the sidelines anymore. I am not going to do it. I have a righteous indignation, and I want to stand for the people. And I have no special interest. I'm not connected to anyone, and I'm not afraid to get the job done. And I know that it's time for change.
Stacia Hall, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you so much, Mike. You've been a pleasure to talk to.
All right. Well, thank you. So you've been great as well. Thank you so much again, and really appreciate it. And